Coach Curtis Dean. Coach Curtis is a certified life and health coach. Coach Curtis's passion is to help everyone reach their highest potential. If you're stuck in a rut in your career, relationship, or personal growth, Coach Curtis will challenge you to play big through transformational habit change coaching. Coach Curtis will help you clarify your goals, identify your obstacles, and design strategies to overcome them. So get ready, get pumped up, and let's play big. Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to our second podcast of the Play Big Coach. I am honored and we're extremely pleased at the awesome response we got last week. We got over 500 views, which for a guy like me doing this for a second time, that is huge. I'm really excited about that. Wait a minute, I forgot to turn my hat on. Now my hat's on. I can be really excited. We got over 500 views, and that is incredible. I'm very excited about that. We ask that the more you see, the more you share. Share us out there. Share us to your pages. If you have groups, give us some love. Give us some shares. If you go to our YouTube, which is Play Bigger Coach, you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which we're just in the infancy of getting started. And we would love to have you subscribe because we'll be putting a lot more content on there than just what's in our podcast every other week. So welcome. I want to do something real quick. When we were, we had a conference with the school that Beth Ann and I went to, Beth Ann that you're going to meet shortly. And they gave us these really cool habit change cards. And basically you just pull a card every once in a while when you're needing a little inspiration, and it will give you a little thought for the day. And so the affirmation is I am the author of my own storyline. I am the author of my own storyline. And that's true. And, I say all the time, I say, you gotta write a lot. You got to edit often because we're always changing and growing. So the food for thought on this was, if you were to write a memoir, what would be the first line? What would the first line of your story be? So if you were going to write yourself a memoir, what would the first line of your story be? And I've known mine for a long time. Mine is real simple. Mine is, I am the last of Miss Betty's boys. There were 3, and now there's just me. My mama raised 3 boys. We all were raised in the same house, and we couldn't have been any more different than if we'd have been raised in different villages or something, and it just speaks to the uniqueness of how you grow up. And I have a whole book in my brain. One day I'm going to write about Miss Betty and her boys. And Miss Betty was my mama. That's what everybody called her, was Miss Betty. So I'm very, very excited about that. So if you're on here and you're listening, tell me, what would your first line of your story be? And we may put Beth Ann on the spot and even ask her that in a minute. Speaking of Beth Ann, we are going into the holidays, and there is so much talk about food and fellowship and gift giving. And so we want to talk about how we can get through those things and stay healthy mentally and physically. So tonight we are honored to have an amazing coach with us who has some amazing techniques on how to handle the holidays. She's a Rewire coach, rewiring for results. Man, that's what we all need. So Beth Ann Kovacs, I met Beth Ann through the school that we both attended to get certified. And it's called HCI, the Health Coach Institute. And I think we just pretty much clicked immediately. We were, she had a group here for health coaches in Florida that I got on Facebook, and we started chatting. And so then when we went to this thing in Phoenix, Arizona, we met, and I will let her tell you the rest of that story. But I first want to bring on Coach Beth Ann. Are you there? She's there. I see her coming. Here she comes.
I'm here. I'm so excited to be here. I love being with Coach Curtis. It's always a party with Coach Curtis.
Absolutely.
I love it.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. So tell me, if you had to write your memoir, I told you I was going to put you on the spot. If you had to write your memoir, what would the first line of your story be?
I have never thought about that. And so I'm one of those that when you get asked on the spot, listen to your heart and what would it say? And kind of the first thing would probably be, and I might cry a little bit actually.
That's okay.
A redhead, but never a redheaded stepchild.
Oh, there you go. I love that. That is
That's
awesome.
kind of what spoke up to me. So,
That
yeah.
is awesome. I love that. You are one of the most amazing heart warriors that I've ever met. They
Oh,
talk about that at HCI, how we're heart warriors. And to me, it's way more than just a tagline. I see you doing this because of your passion. I see you doing this because of your heart. And I see you doing it in everything that you do, not just your coaching, but your everyday life, and the things that I see you doing on Facebook. I just see you being so full of life and love
aw.
and joy. And it really makes sharing your story great for me, because I love to hype up people that I think are in this for the right reasons.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's something that you don't necessarily expect, right? Like when you're listening to your heart and your heart's desires, ideally, when you're tapping into that, you step into what you don't even expect. I didn't expect to become a coach or a health or life coach. Like it just was meant to be. I honestly believe that, so it's
Oh,
been good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I asked you a little bit earlier if you wanted to tell the story. So you can tell the story about how we kind of met on Facebook, but then we actually met face to face at the conference in Phoenix, Arizona. So you can tell folks about that.
Yeah. So, and I'll do the quick highlight version, but it is going to be a book one day, right? I met a father-daughter team in Atlanta on the way to Phoenix, and he kind of looked like my dad, and they were like always taking these trips together, and he's loading our luggage into the car. He's like, "Don't take an Uber, ride with us to the conference." And I got a little teary-eyed, and I was like, "Man," I need to take a trip with my dad. Like it just kind of like that little call. And then you go through the whole like experience of a conference, and you're like in this emotional bubble, and you're doing all this self work and working on yourself. And we went to that one session where it was, if you had all the resources in the world, if you listened to your heart's desire, what would you do? If you had everything you'd ever be, how would your life be different? And so we had to write out what that would be. And I was like, I would be out of debt. I would, like, all the great things we want to be, right? Out of debt. I'd
Of
have my
course.
son's college paid for.
Remember that?
I would start, a business. And with my husband, I would adopt a daughter, right? I had this particular list. And then we had to turn to the coach to our right. And just so happened that beautiful Curtis was next to me. And he was like, "You want to go first?" And I was like, "Sure." So I'm going down the list. And when I hit, I would adopt a daughter, what did I do?
You begin to squall.
I bawled. I ugly cry. And he's like, "Holy crap, what do I do? Like, I don't even know this girl." And she's like, and his words were, "Whoa, that's a big one for you." And I was like, yeah. And that was like the moment that my heart really, like, I tapped into it. I was like, I'm hearing from the beginning. And it stemmed back to when my mom had a lot of miscarriages. I looked in the mirror as a young kid and I said, I will never physically have a kid. I was physically terrified from the age of
Sure.
12 or whatever. I was like, I never physically want to have a kid. I want to adopt. God, I will adopt. Spent a summer in El Salvador, dealt with orphans. I want to have an orphanage. I want to own an orphanage. And then it was, I want to have the Brad and Angelina, a kid from every country, love all the religions, love all the cultures. And then you just kind of step out of all of that and life happens. You get married, you
Sure.
have kids. And we had trouble having kids. We thought we were going to adopt, but we ended up finally getting pregnant after 7 years of marriage, which was great. But we never had any other kids. We talked about adopting off and on. It just never happened. And that next day, I was on Facebook that morning at the conference, and I was like, man, I'm scrolling through. It was like my dad's birthday. And I called my dad and was like, "Hey, Dad, happy birthday." And we just had a nice chat. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "What's this coaching about? What are you doing?" And I told him, and I was like, "Let me tell you about last night. This is life changing. When I get home, I'm telling my husband and son, we are going to adopt. Like, we're doing this. I'm listening to my heart's desire." It was all about all the things that you don't have. If you had all the resources, what would you do differently? How would you be stepping through the fear? And I'm going to adopt a daughter. And he said, "I know how that feels." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, I had an 8th grade education. Your mom walked in with you looking for your biological dad and couldn't find you. I helped you get diapers and formula. And after that, I knew that I was going to marry her, and I knew that I was going to be your dad. Like I just knew. He just made that decision, right? And of course, the marriage fell apart, and then they got together, and he adopted me. And he said I had all the reasons. I had never been married before. I didn't have any kids. I didn't know how to be a dad. And I just decided, and he went through with it. And he's never treated me like I was adopted. I was always felt like he's my dad, and so that's been a very special part of that journey. Never treated like a redheaded stepchild. So it all just kind of comes together, right? When you listen to your heart.
Yep. That is amazing.
And so now I've been, I came home and I told the story to my husband and son, and we decided as a family, and the universe showed up, and we're searching, and we've been searching for a year now, and God's going to bless us when the time is right. So
that is so cool. And I know that was definitely the universe speaking that night. I mean, and I tell everybody this when you tell that story. I'm sitting there and she is just crying. And I'm thinking in my heart, I've either just realized I'm one of the best coaches ever or one of the worst coaches ever, because I don't know what just happened. And the more we talked and the more we connected, I realized, okay, I might actually know what I'm doing here. But it's all about it was letting her just flow out, letting her speak and letting her talk, letting her just open up. And it was amazing. It was. And we have been fast friends ever since. We've collaborated on some things. We're still doing that. And then it brought us to tonight.
Yeah.
So, that is a wonderful story. And I think I can't wait to meet your daughter. I absolutely
can't
cannot
either.
wait. Because she already has a built-in aunt and uncle with me and Aunt Joni. So
Yes, love it.
That's pretty much a done deal. So one thing real quick is I understand that not only do I have my thing about hats, but I understand you have a hat as well.
I do.
Okay. I want to see this hat.
So Thanksgiving is my holiday. And it's been my holiday since I was a little kid. I'll try to put this on with this headset, right? And can y'all see this? My scoop.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So I have a tradition of a turkey hat, doing a turkey gobble ever since I was like a little kid. There was this little turkey in the game farm. It was like this place where like all the Kentucky animals were free and you could go. And he was in this cage and he started gobbling when I was little. And I just started gobbling back at him. And then it became this thing like, let's go to the game farm and piss off the turkey, because he would get so pissed off. And so ever since, after the Thanksgiving prayer, I have always done the turkey trot, or not, the turkey call. So I will grace, it's like crooked. All right. Grace you guys with my turkey call. Are you ready?
We're ready. That is so awesome. I love that.
We're wearing the fun festive hat tonight.
You know what? That's what it's all about. It's all about having fun. It's all about knowing who you are. You can put on a turkey hat and do a turkey gobble, and people love you for that. Because people can't relate to people who think that they're either better than they are, or they can't get on that level. They can't just connect. It's like I wear my funky hats all the time. And the one hat, the last one I just bought, one of my friends from Atlanta, it's my best couple friends, their daughter went, "Why do you have a dish rack on your head?" I'm like, okay, you know what? You're out of the will. That's it. I'm done with you. You're done. So It is a funky looking hat, but that's okay. That's my thing. So, all right, let's get into this whole rewiring thing. So tell us how the rewiring came up and what that's all about.
Yeah. So for me and my journey, I got to this point where it was a significant life change, first of all. And I got to the point where I just had the first F it moment where I just gave up, right? I'm like, F it, I give up. And part of that was all of the stressors, all the things that happened with moving from my hometown to Florida, our house not selling, renting, new job, no family, no friends. Like, it was just so much overwhelm, so much stress. Back home, I would work out with my aunt all the time. I was pretty healthy. We were very close, very connected. So working out and being healthy was important to me. But when I would go to do these workouts and things, I would just leave in an ugly cry because I was missing her. And the F it moment was I closed the door, had another ugly cry. I promise I don't cry a lot, but significant moments with tears, right? And I was like, F it, I'm done. I'm just going to live the Florida vacation lifestyle. I'm going to be by the pool. I'm going to try all the new restaurants. I'm just going to have margaritas and chicken fingers and all the things, right? And that led to avoidance of, not wanting to deal with the sadness of moving away and the dealing with being, this new change. And I ended up gaining so much weight. Like I was at my heaviest weight, the weight that I was at when I had my son. Then, of course, as a woman, not feeling sexy, clothes not fitting, the toxic thoughts around all that, tired of dieting. When I would eat, I would bloat up and be like 7 or 8 months pregnant, bent over. And I really thought something was wrong with me. I went to the doctor and they're like, "Oh, you're fine." And I'm like, I don't understand why when I'm eating stuff, this is happening. Something has got to be wrong. And so we watched, it's a great documentary as a family. We watched Eating You Alive. If you have not seen that documentary and you want to have the biggest light bulb go off on what you should do differently within changing your diet to, lose weight and to be healthy, just healthy in general. That is a great movie. And we watched it as a family and I was like, we have got to change. That's the F it moment of moving forward. This is a level 10 or higher problem. I cannot stay in this spot where I am at. I have got to change. I've got to get back to where I was, or I've got to get to where I want to be, right? I got to move forward. Awesome. And so that's how I found the Health Coach Institute. And that's really what started my journey. And I told my husband, if I could just rewire my brain, then the change wouldn't be so hard, right? If we can get our brain on board and not have the resistance and fight all of these crazy thoughts, then it wouldn't be so hard to change. And so that's why I named it Rewiring Coaching, Results-Driven Life and Wellness Coaching, because I rewired my brain. Going through the process of things that I've learned, helping my clients learn to rewire, like it is such a blessing to break free from thinking patterns, specifically around like hurts, habits, hangups. Those 3 areas impact all areas of your life. They impact your health, your relationships, your finances, your career, even your spirituality. Like if you've got toxic thoughts in those 3 areas, then it's going to impact everywhere. And if you can rewire, which we all can choose. There's ways that our brains are constantly rewiring on their own. And so I just really help the process to make change a lot easier.
That's awesome. And, it does make sense. And you call it rewiring, I call it, playing big through habit change, but
yeah,
it is that it's that you can't keep doing today, tomorrow and expect to have different results. There's got to be something different. There's got to be a change. And you mentioned 3 of those H words. They were hang-ups.
So it is your hurts. And I love hurts because your hurt part tends to be toxic thinking about our past, things that we've done, regrets, things that we didn't do, or things that have been done to us, that role of being the victim, right? And staying in that place of being a victim, playing small because we're a victim, right?
Yeah.
So that's hurts. That's the hurts part. Habits are really toxic actions. And you can have obviously positive habits that are moving you forward, but we're talking about what's kind of pulling us backwards from playing big. And so toxic actions, right? Those are the things that we do to self-soothe, the things that we do to avoid dealing with emotions or problems or hurts, right? They're also the things that just kind of keep us on autopilot so we don't have to deal with the reality or what we need to be facing within our life, right? Whether that's in our finances or whatever. And then hang-ups are probably my favorite because we all have a crap ton of hang-ups when it comes down to it, right? And that can be anything tied to really that drives you into that constant cycle or swirl of overwhelm. These are the thoughts that always come up all the time, right? The hang-ups are the things that you just can't get past. And they're usually around something like an emotional problem or a personal problem. So it's hurts, habits, and hangups.
Hurts, habits, and hangups. Let me throw one at you and see where these hurts, habits, and hangups hang out with the holidays.
All right.
That's another H.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to be a guest on a podcast on Monday, and we were talking about some of these same things about the holidays. There are so many expectations about the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
So many expectations about how you should dress. So many expectations about how you should eat. So many expectations about how you should or shouldn't, or how much you should or shouldn't drink, right?
Yep.
And just you can talk for hours and hours about, overindulgence, and you can talk about, spending all your money and going into credit card debt for the holidays and all
Yeah.
that. But I want to get to a little bit deeper level, those families that have those issues with all those things that you're talking about, the habits, the hangups, the hurts, because those come up so hard, so real, and so blatant during the holidays. I think probably more than any other time, probably. Do you agree?
No, I definitely agree. And there's a lot of stress and anxiety about even before the holiday event, where you're going to have to deal with the people they're going to trigger you or drive you crazy, or that you want to avoid, right? So it's not just stress the night of, or that particular holiday situation, or even if you're hosting and you're stressed and you want everything to be perfect, you got the expectations that everything's going to turn out great, but then the dogs from next door, like in the Christmas Story, come and eat the turkey off the table, crap happens, right? And so you've got all of the stress around the holidays, all the anxiety even before the event happens. And I think we all have experienced that in one way or another, for sure.
Absolutely. And this is a big thing for me, because number one, I was a single dad for years. I raised my daughter by myself, but also because of the fact that I was a stepdad for years. And we were lucky that my stepdaughter's dad, he was very easy to get along with, as far as, when the holidays come, and, we started planning probably in October for, who's getting her for this, who's getting her for that. It was never ugly. It wasn't ever a problem. But there's so many out there that have those issues, right? Where, honestly, you start talking in October about who's going to have the child for Thanksgiving, who's going to have the child for, you had Christmas Eve last year, so I get Christmas Day this year. And which is a fine compromise, except till it comes to pass and it doesn't happen. And there's all these things. So your anxiety, just like you said, starts way before the actual holiday. What are some ways that rewiring works that you can feel less of a pressure and try to get through those times?
Yeah. So one of my favorite, and this is an NLP, it's a neuro-linguistic programming exercise. Okay. So one of the things is, and this is also a great technique that like social workers will use, or empaths that are really super sensitive to the environment and what's around them, right? So you can practice this actually before the event happens. And if you will, and I can even walk you guys through it if you want, like if you really get centered into where you're at right now, taking a few deep breaths. Right? And then really picturing for yourself what a barrier would look like for you. And it's really good because we all experience things differently. Things resonate differently. So you might see a brick wall. For me, when I think about this, it's like a bubble, and I picture it clear with like all the different colors swirling around. So just kind of picture placing up a barrier that you have full control over, right? So whatever that looks like for you, and then visualizing, and you want to do this in really great detail and practice it, having even two knobs right in front of you. So if you place your hands out in front of you, so if you've got your eyes closed and you're deep breathing, and you're kind of picturing whatever that barrier looks like, two knobs right in front of you. One is going to control the thickness of that barrier. Okay, so this allows you to step into a safe space that you have control over how much of this you're going to allow in and out of your environment, out of the situation. And then the other one is like a quick switch off and on. So you can turn that dial and actually put the barrier up or put it all the way down. Put the barrier up, put the barrier down, right? Or make it super thick, super thin. And so however that shows up for you, actually practicing that and getting really good at it. And then before you go into the party or the dinner or whatever it is, and you're kind of like stepping back, just go in with what you're comfortable so that you're actually protecting yourself from what you know are those triggers, and you're kind of detached. And that's going to allow you some breathing room. It's going to allow you some space to actually react in a more positive way. So instead of you already being on the defensive and the right, I've got this protective barrier. I'm going in and I'm only going to allow or disallow what I'm willing to accept or not accept. And that's what boundaries are really all about, right? What am I willing to accept or not accept in the areas of words, in the areas of environment, digitally, on our social media?
Sure.
What am I willing to accept within food consumption into my body, all of those different types of boundaries. And so using that and really playing around with that helps you be in a better space for those types of situations. It's kind of a cool little trick there.
That's awesome. I will tell you, when I first joined the Health Coast Institute, when I started doing these programs, I used to call what you just said the woo, right? And that was not me. I couldn't get behind it. I couldn't understand it because I'm a very, I guess, kind of more of a tactile person until I start practicing them with my clients. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't tell anybody to do anything that you can't do yourself. I've always been that kind of manager when I was a leader or as a leader. I don't, so I really started to embrace those things myself, the deep breathing habits and the imagining yourself, somewhere and those kind of things. And what I realized was, holy shit, that stuff works. And I was like, that is amazing. I can really put that up. I can do those things and put myself in that place where I do have control of my own environment.
Yeah.
Because no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say for years, I was a yes guy. I was the yes guy because I always thought that, people like you more if you say yes a lot, right? Because we would go to 8, 10, 12 parties during the holidays and we'd have all the big dinners and, and as a chef, of course, big dinners are expected out of us. But, I was always the yes guy, of course, because if I don't say yes, you won't like me. And it's okay if I go and I only have 2 hours of sleep to go to work the next day. But, yes, the woo works. That is right. That is right, Tanya. Toya, I'm sorry. That to me was so huge that I could actually begin to set up my own boundaries. And then I had to realize that not only could I do it at a party or to saying no to someone, but I could do it through all these different places in my life. And talking about the holidays now is a big deal because, you just have to buy so many gifts, right? Well, so-and-so got me a gift 3 years ago, so I still have to buy them a gift this year and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, well, and I was going to say 2 things, really great points that you made is like the woo-woo, right? What we consider like the woo-woo, right? It's the way our brains work, right? So you might think of it as woo-woo, but I can go back with clients to a particular situation where they physically feel like the way that we feel. We're all made of energy. Right. So these memories, the way that we experience things create how we believe. So sometimes we have to go back to a particular situation and look back and give ourselves the compassion for that we couldn't speak up for ourselves in this particular situation, or give compassion to the person that maybe hurt us in that situation, but they didn't know any better. They couldn't do any better, right? And so healing that is also, it's not so woo-woo, but it's in our minds because everything we've experienced are these memories, and that's how we are perceiving our world today. And when you're rewiring how you want to choose to perceive the world, then you're able to move forward. That's not serving you anymore. That's not helping you anymore with where you're at today. Exactly. And it's really just self-care and protection, from that perspective. And if you're always saying yes, if you've got poor boundaries, then no boundaries end up in burnout, resentment, anger, stress. And if you don't like the word no, there's other ways that you can just go with your gut, like in these we're talking about these holiday parties. Like when someone says something, you can very politely say, you know what? I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with sitting here and listening to that. So I'm just going to go outside and take a walk, or you don't have to
Sure.
engage in a fight or stir up a bunch of crap with your family. You just choose. I'm not okay with this. I'm choosing to step out. And that's a positive boundary.
And that is true in these situations, and also in our social media. That is so true.
Yes.
I have, and we won't get into any of that, but the election is just there was so much on both sides, and I have so many friends on both sides of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And as long as everything was talking about, hey, this is how I believe, this is what I feel like we should do, this is why I like that candidate, I left it on my page because I like to hear everybody's opinion. Yeah. But it was when it was the things that were ugly, and if you're one of those people, then you're this, or if you're one of those people, then you're that. Those are the people who just, you know what, I'm going to hide you for the next 30, 60, 90 days until we can all get along again, because I'm not going to have that in my headspace, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my no. That's my boundary that I decided on. If you find on my post, on my page, I post a lot about, my positive quotes. I post a lot about my wife because, number one, she is drop dead gorgeous, and she's
amazing. I love her.
She rescued me from me when she didn't even know I needed rescuing, and I sure as hell didn't know it. Aww. And I talk a lot about, family and friends and just fun stuff and cooking, and because to me, that's what people need. Is just, I don't want to come to social media to be bombarded with those things. And sure, you can say, well, you need to be informed. And I agree with that. As long as you're being informative, I'm cool with that. It's just not when you're being ugly. Yeah. And that's the same thing when you're at these family gatherings. We have, right now we have a very tight circle. And so there's not a lot of that goes on. But God, I remember back in the day when all the parents were alive, and, the cousins and the uncles and aunts, and, here in Jacksonville with our family, it wasn't a party if somebody ain't called 911. You know what I mean? So, we were those kind of people. If somebody hadn't called the cops by 8:30, 9 o'clock, then we failed as humans.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm so glad to be in a different environment today and in a different headspace. And so let's go and talk a little bit about food and alcohol, rewiring food and alcohol, because, I did a huge shift in my eating and my food a couple of years ago, lost a lot of weight. I have gained some of it back through I think some of my wires must have come loose. I think we'll talk about that later. But, I had to rewire what I was doing. It was the way you're talking about rewiring it's so true, because my mama, for as long as I can remember, she got up every morning and she had a cup of coffee and a little pastry of some kind, some kind of sweet, right? And growing up, when I couldn't even reach 100 pounds till I was 28 years old, that was fine.
Right.
When I hit 28 years old and I started adding on a little bit of weight, those pastries started adding up. So that was one of those things that was an ingrained behavior in my life.
Yeah.
When Joan and I first got together, and we would go to my mom's, and my mom's like, oh, you want this? And Joan's like, okay, number one, it's too early for you to even be talking to me. Number two, I have coffee. Number three, I'll eat in a few hours. That was not how she did things. For us, it was like, is there no coffee cake? Is there no, what are we doing? I mean, are we barbarians here? So talk to me about how you can rewire and some of the tips or tricks and rewirings that you have for folks that can get them through these holidays.
Yeah. And I mean, and we hear and we see so many tips and tricks. Like, I mean, one of my favorite, I still do it today as far as Thanksgiving, is I get the small plate and a tablespoon of everything. So because I want to try everything, and that helps with the portion control. And then if I want more broccoli casserole or more sweet potatoes, I'll go back for that for the second round. Right.
Right.
But when you think about rewiring, it's like, what do you believe to be true about yourself and your relationship with food, right? Is this food going to move me forward? Is this alcohol going to make me out of control and be a jerk during the holidays? Like, how is this going to impact me? And having that type of a mindset of, what am I consuming? Is it going to move me forward or backwards? How is it going to change? I did a 40-day no alcohol just because COVID, and alcohol, I think, is a big thing for everybody during COVID this year, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just self-soothing, right? And it wasn't like I was getting trashed every night, but I was drinking a glass of wine or 2 glasses every night of the week. And I was like, this is becoming like a habit. I'm enjoying that's what I want. It's 5 o'clock, it's cocktail, it's happy hour, right?
Yeah.
And so it's becoming a habit. And so I was like, this is not a habit that I want to continue in my life. So I need to do a little check and balance and make sure and be curious. What are my thoughts as I'm choosing not to have alcohol? It wasn't easy. I was like, man, I really want a glass of wine. But I was able to really identify, here's when I want it. Why do I really want it? Right? The rewiring process is, why do I really want it? What is it really going to do for me? Right? And so really being curious around that from the holidays, and not doing it from a self-soothing perspective, but use the holidays as an opportunity of like, where in the new year, now that I'm kind of aware of how this is impacting my life, where in the new year do I want to show up differently? How do I want to think differently about food and my relationship to that and alcohol?
So let me ask you, when you decided to go the 40 days without alcohol, did you replace it with something else? We talk about our habits. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I did this one time for 30 days. It was not in a row, but it was 30 days. No, I'm just kidding. I did this one time for 30 days. And so one thing I did that helped me in the beginning was, when I would come home, I would still get my wine glass and I would drink water out of it. Because I still had that same feeling of holding that glass. Because for me, it was very much a habit. We came in from work, we started dinner. I'd grab a bottle of wine, open it, pour us a couple of glasses while I'm eating dinner, and she's picking up around the house and we're doing our thing. And so I replaced that with still just had that glass in my hand because I love a good glass. Yeah. And I just put water in it. And that worked for me until 3 or 4 days, 5 days, when I realized I didn't even need that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great transition. There were a couple of days where I was like, oh man, it's like Taco Tuesday and I want a margarita so bad. Right.
Yeah.
So I like the Simply Limeade is what I put in my margarita mix. And so I would have that when I had to have a margarita, I'd have a little bit of that, but alcohol in general just does so much damage to our body, to our metabolism, that when you can transition, wean yourself off, and get to a point where, it's mentally something not that you're as dependent on, where you're like, oh, I gotta have it,
Right.
It's something that you're stepping back and be like, I'm really going to enjoy this, right? I've earned this, or I've done my boot camp so I can, fit in those calories, not a diet mentality, but just kind of keeping things on even keel. That's really what it takes to do that. So very similar to what you did. I did that on a couple of occasions with that.
Yeah.
Margaritas.
Well, and the thing about it is we are conditioned. We're conditioned by television. We're conditioned by radio. We're conditioned by social media. How many posts do you see? Like you said on Taco Tuesday, it's Taco Tuesdays. Who's hitting those tacos and margaritas?
Right.
Or, some of the other ones at brunch. Joan and I love brunch.
You do love some brunch. We got to go out for some brunch.
Absolutely. We do love us some brunch because, number one, because we're chefs. We love to try new food. We love to try different places because, and this is really cool. And it's a little bit of a sidebar, but I was at church one time and this preacher was preaching a message and there was another preacher there. So when he came up, he asked that preacher, he said, wow, did you like my message? What'd you think? And he said, I got a couple out of it. In other words, he'd gotten a couple of messages out of that one guy's message.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with me in cooking. I'll eat something and go, oh man, that was good, but I would do this or I would change that. And I do a whole new riff on it. So we love to go out and have brunch. And brunch is traditionally associated with mimosas or, Bloody Marys and those kind of things. And we went the other morning, it's 11 o'clock in the morning and this place had tequila infused mimosas.
Where's this place at, and why was I not invited?
Remember what it was the what is that? It's a new place over in Town Center. Anyway, but number one, who the hell needs tequila at 11 o'clock in the morning? But who ordered one? Me, because it was a tequila infused mimosa. I wasn't passing that up. Let's don't kid ourselves. So we are very conditioned to those things, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about habit change, when we talk about rewiring, that's what all this is about. And neither one of us are saying you can never have another drink. Neither one of us are saying that you can never have a huge, amazing meal at Thanksgiving or brunch on Sunday. It's just all about changing portions. It's changing expectations, I think, more than anything else. And I really like the one you said about, you get a smaller plate and take a little bit of everything. Yeah. Because, my daddy used to say he'd get a plate and it needed to have sideboards, so he could get all the food on it. Yeah. And that was the truth. But, you'd be amazed if you get a few of those little things and you eat while everybody's talking and you're enjoying yourself. By the time you get to that, you're just as full as if you'd ate that huge plate.
Yeah. Well, and our minds are, the way that our minds are processed, like the rewiring is we have a thought, then it's followed by an emotion. It's always followed by an emotion, right? And that emotion is going to tie into what kind of decision do we want to make about how are we processing that emotion? What do we want to do with that? And it does certainly have this undercurrent of like, what do we believe about ourselves? Why do we need it? Who do we think we are? That kind of thing. But it's really thought, feeling, decision, and then what are you doing? What did you really ultimately do? And that gives you the result, right? So if you want a different result, you got to start with the thought. Why am I having this thought? Where's this thought coming from? How am I feeling after I had this thought? How do I want to feel differently so that I make a different decision and I do differently? Like those are it's the TFDD. That's what I call it. Thought, feeling, decision, doing.
Wow, that's amazing. And that is so true. Because we hate to say no. We hate to disappoint somebody. You want to make sure you ate some of, Aunt Clara's, pie, or some of, Aunt Jessie's, pudding, or whatever it is, even though Lord knows it probably is nasty to start with. You don't even want it, but you'll do it anyway because I'm a yes guy. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So food and alcohol are huge, and we can get past those. But I think it all comes down to something that you and I have talked about a lot, and that is, when is it okay to say no?
Yeah.
I call it, I talk about a lot that you have to give yourself grace, right? You have to be able to understand that what I'm doing or what I'm saying, where I'm going or where I'm not going, is what I've decided is best for me.
Yeah.
For my family, for my wife, for my kids, or whatever. And it's like, there's so many times it's like, well, when the kids were younger, my mom lived in Jacksonville. We lived in Orlando, and Joan's mom and dad lived in Tampa. That made for a full day. If you go to everybody's house, right?
Yeah.
You're dragging kids out of bed at 4:00 in the morning, throw them in the backseat of a car. And it became to where it wasn't even fun. It was just like, you have to meet these goals. You have to meet these deadlines. You have to get here. And, you shove, Christmas breakfast in your face, and you open 12 gifts, and you get on the road and you drive 4 hours, 5 hours, you get over here. And we just realized we were doing it for
everybody else, else, right?
Exactly. And we thought we were doing it for the kids. They need to see their grandparents. And the kids are like, we would much rather just stay the hell at home and let dad make pancakes, and we're all happy, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe we go to Grandma Dean's, this time, and maybe next time we go to, to Pop Pops. And it's just, we didn't know how to say no. We didn't know how to give ourselves grace. We didn't know how that if you just explain things to people, a lot of times it works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
How can rewiring help you to be able to say no, to give yourself that grace?
Well, I like to say that when you say no, you're saying yes to living freer.
Yes.
Because when you say no, you're saying no so that you're making room for something else, something new, for more possibilities, right? To experience something different, to learn, to grow, whatever is going to come out of saying no. You're actually saying yes to something free. It may be better, it may not be, right? But you're not stuck in that autopilot or that rut, and you're not living for everyone else. You're actually doing something for yourself. So there's a couple of ways that you can say no without it being so harsh, because I think that's like the baby step. We talk about how do we take first steps to being comfortable with then feeling more confident in saying no, right? And there's a confidence that comes with understanding your values. Like, I really value that my kids are only with me for 18 years. Well, maybe till they're 30, but you never know, right? So I got 18 good years with these kids, and I want them to wake up. For me, my value is I want to see him come in and see the presents under the tree. Like, whatever that value is, what is it that you value? You have to identify that first, that you want to hold true. When you know the value and you stand in it, saying no is so much easier.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're in alignment with your heart, you're in alignment with what you want to experience, and you're in alignment with where you want to go. right? So I feel like that's a big thing. What is the value that you believe and hold true to say no? And it makes it easy to say no.
Right. And one things that we didn't realize is how much we were putting on the kids. We were
Yeah.
making them so anxious, right? We were making them so nervous. And then it's the thing where you get in the car and like we're dashing through the snow, but we're headed to grandma's and somebody's got to take a pee break and it's like, we don't have time for a pee break. We got to get there and open these, we didn't realize the stress we were putting. We thought we were doing this for them and we were putting them under so much stress. And the next year when we told, I don't know, my mom or her mom and dad, hey, you know what? This year we're just going to stay home and do our thing. And they were like, oh, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. We were like, well, damn, you could at least been a little upset about it. I mean, come on now. But it was okay because they realized we were doing what was best for all of us.
Yeah. And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just had this great, okay, well, here we are in 2020. And we have not experienced anything like we've ever experienced before. Absolutely. With this year, right? And so what more of an opportunity for us to experience, which in some cases we're going to have to with quarantines and governors shutting down parties and all that stuff, right? It's worse in other areas. But yes, this is an opportunity for you to really do some soul searching and really experience what would it be like. You got kind of an out excuse if you want to use it that way too. Like, hey, Granny, I can't come because, I got the COVID and I'm going to enjoy the heck out of my pajamas and just sleep it in on Christmas morning, So use that to your advantage and really experience a new way of the holidays. Don't look at it as necessarily a negative, but just be curious about how it can be a little different. It's going to be different. We know it's been a different year. Right. And see how it shows up.
And it's exciting, like for us now, because, my daughter, Megan, she's now to the point like this holiday, this Thanksgiving, she's cooking. She's doing everything at her house. And that's so cool because we get to experience that. Yeah. We get to experience our child growing up. And now they want us to come and be with them. Aww. And I said, when she asked us, I said, do you know how cool that is? Because I get to go to your house now, eat your food, make a mess, and then I can go, hey, I'm out.
I love it.
I'll have a good one. And so, but it's so cool because they're growing up. And one of the things with parties too is that, I found that it's okay just to be honest. Say, listen, I've already been invited to 4 parties. I've said yes to. There's just no more party left in me, right? Yep. There's only 4 weeks in December, and you know what? Maybe next year yours will be one of the ones I go to. But for me, I got to say no. Yeah. And again, you don't have to be ugly about it. People are fine with honesty. They are perfectly fine. And I love what you say about being curious about why you're doing it, how you're doing it. Those kind of things are amazing. So we are getting to the end of our hour, and I think this has been amazing. I've loved every minute of this.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Tell us a little bit about your website. Tell us a little bit about what you offer and what would working with you look or sound like.
Yeah. So my website is Rewire, 4 results.com. I'm pretty proud of it. It's pretty new this year. It's something that I've worked pretty hard on. Still have a lot coming for it. Want to do some blogging, some extra stuff, some fun things are on the way for sure for the new year. But yeah, you can go and check out, what rewiring is all about. I love to just have a conversation like we did with tonight, get to know me, let me get to know you. What thoughts are you struggling with? How is that showing up and impacting your health, your relationships, your career? What is the specific area that you're struggling with the most, right? And let's research with you and be curious. What are these thoughts? How are they showing up for you? And it's just a discovery session. And we'll determine if we are a good fit to work or not. My coaching style, we, like you say, might get a little woo-woo. We definitely do various different exercises because we need to go deep. We need to dig deep into our mind, the way that we think. We need to listen and open up channels within our heart. We need to get into a little bit of energy work as well. So I've got a little bit of woo-woo with my style, but it's not too woo-woo that you can't get used to it. That. And it works. It works, does. Right?
The woo-woo works. Now you have if they go to your website, there you have a guide or something they can download, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my favorite tips, and I get asked all the time. They say, "How do you get so much done with your time?" I love if you're struggling with your time. Like you say, I have no control of my time. I want to work with you. Like, I love that. Because when you rewire your thoughts and the way that you own and manage your time, your whole life changes. And that was a big one for me, is like, I'm not a morning person. Well, when I became a morning person, I rewired that one little silly habit, changed my entire life. I love getting up at 4 a.m. You don't have to get up at 4 a.m. I don't require my clients to get up at 4 a.m. But I now have a whole new way of living, and I get so much more done, and I have so much more time fitting stuff in. So the Rewire Your Routine gives you sleep tips, easy action items that you can pick from a menu in all these different areas. Hydration, how to start with your water. Because all of these, if you want more energy, get your sleep, get your hydration. There's so many good, it's just a great guide. And then there's even some worksheets where I say every morning, get in the habit of your must-dos, your want-tos, and your will-dos, right? Or your must-dos. These are the three things I must do today. These are the things that I want to, right? These are things that I really want to do, but they aren't high priority. I don't have to get them done today. And then the last three are something just for you, right? So trying to get through the must-dos and getting one of each of the other two categories makes a big difference in a routine. If you need a new routine going into the new year, it's a great guide, and I can help you create your own routine as well. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's really cool because we both went to exactly the same courses, right? But we even though we have the sequences they gave us, we kind of do things totally different, right? Yeah. And because every coach is not for everybody. I had someone reach out to me a couple of weeks ago, and they specifically wanted a female coach, and they wanted a female coach for a certain thing. And I felt so cool that I was able to steer her into the right direction. It wasn't like I had to sit back and go, well, why won't you let me be your coach? Because I could just do that too. I've got all the same things. Everybody's so different. And someone who may not react a certain way to me will love and react that way to you, because you can just bring that out in them. And that's what makes all of our coaches unique. Yeah. So, my website is the Play Big Coach, and yours is Rewire4, the number 4, results.com. And just check those out. Check out our website. I don't have a free giveaway. I'm not quite as bougie, as fancy as she is, because she's been doing this for a while. So
bougie. I'm so bougie with this turkey on my head too. Right. Woo!
My free giveaway is that I know her. That's all I got. So anyway, so we appreciate you joining us tonight. We certainly hope you'll come back in the new year and talk about, I know last year you did an amazing, not a discovery board. What do you call it?
Vision boards. I did vision
board. And Joan went to that with you, and she loved it. And so I know you do those kind of things, and maybe you can come back after the beginning of the year and talk about what 2021 is going to look like. I'm not worried about, all this gloom and doom, because you know what? Up here, there ain't no gloom and doom up here.
That's right.
We're looking high. We're going forward. We're playing big, and we can rewire for results. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everybody listening in, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks. And that's it for me.
Thanks for having me. Mwah.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now. Thank you for joining us on the Play Bigger podcast. Coach Curtis is dedicated to helping you grow, thrive, and excel. Playing bigger is more than a tagline, it's a lifestyle. So be sure to tune in every other week for more from the Play Bigger Coach. And check us out online at www.playbigcoach.com. There you can schedule your free 1-hour Play Big strategy session. We look forward to seeing you soon.